Good evening. It is time for today's Tax Talk. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. It is Thursday, June 16th, the year of our Lord 2022. You know, the IRS news every day. There's something going on with the IRS. But it is about 1 year ago, that ProPublica had published that private tax information from the wealthiest people in America. And the question becomes, where did they get that information? Well, it had to come from the IRS. Where else would they get all that information from one place? And so there should be the IRS. It's a crime to access tax information without authority. And whoever revealed that information has broken the law and should be punished. Well, who did break it? We don't know. Well, don't they have an investigation that they're going to determine? We don't know if there's an investigation. We cannot comment on an ongoing investigation. Well, can you tell me if there's an investigation happening? Ask the Republican senators. No, we can't tell you that. So there's a couple of different people who could tell you about it. But that's what we're going to talk about today. Won't you join us? I hope. Sometimes I talk too much. I forgot to do the intro yesterday. I almost did it today because I started talking about it. But anyway, we're talking about the ProPublica. But also there's another big, and I didn't want to forget about it today, since tomorrow I have the Trust Radio Network where I interview attorneys. That's about 2:15 tomorrow. So I wanted to also talk about that Congress is proposing adding another $1 billion to the IRS budget. It's the way they work that budget. It's now they're saying it's with the $1 billion it should be 13.7. It's my understanding it's at $14 billion now. Another billion would make it $15 billion. As they used to say, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. All of a sudden, you start talking about a lot of money. But it doesn't seem like a lot of money, does it? $1 billion. Now we talk trillions of dollars, and the IRS, who gets $14 billion a year, tells you that they can't answer your phone because you don't give them enough money. They tell you that they have to throw out 30 million unprocessed information returns because they don't have the money to process them. They tell you that they can't investigate to find out who is revealing or leaking private information. They don't have enough money. They don't have enough money. They can't process your tax return. They don't have enough money. So, $14 billion. They have an antiquated computer system. They just never had enough money. We've never given them enough money. They've gotten, they get billions of dollars every year, and they always have, but they don't have enough money. They can't answer your phone. They can't give you advice. They can't. They just don't have enough. And so, what do they need? They need more money, and that's what Congress is giving them. And of course, I hope we can get a chance to talk about it. We may not, but let's go into the first story because this ProPublica story I think is very important. So let's do that. So why has ProPublica Investigation yet to see the light of day? Why is that? It's been a year since ProPublica published the first pieces in a series dubbed The Secret IRS Files inside the tax records of the 0.001%. The editors revealed that an anonymous source sent them a trove of raw data containing information on thousands of taxpayers. It was so massive, it took 10 staff members months of analysis ahead of the publication to make something of it. A year later, we know exactly as much now about the means, the motive, and the identity of the data thief as we did then. Nothing. 3 entities have authority to conduct investigations in this matter: the Treasury Department in the form of the Office of Inspector General, the FBI at the Department of Justice, and the United States Attorney's Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. We have no information on the inner workings of such probes, or even if they are really taking place. We don't know if there are several, or one that's coordinated, or which agency is taking the lead, though common sense suggests it's special office in charge of the IRS investigations. The U.S. Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration. That's the one that should be, they think. I agree with that. We lack any estimates for the timeline of results, let alone a status report, despite ongoing letters and questions during hearings by House and Senate Republicans. Resistance to providing an update has been so absolute that Oklahoma Senator James Lankford had to use his time during the Finance Committee budget hearing to ask the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen to commit to a meeting on how taxpayer information is protected and what security protocols have changed in response. Keep in mind that the Senate Finance Committee and the House Ways and Means Committee have a statutory responsibility to oversee the IRS on behalf of the American people, including those whose records were stolen and exploited by ProPublica. At the time of the breach, Attorney General Merrick Garland promised the Senate Appropriations Committee that investigating this leak would be at the top of his priority list. I think more at the top is putting the people, is abusing those January 3rd patriots. I know, I get it. But to me, they're patriots. Yes, some broke the law. Some just went into the Capitol. I don't want to go there. Yet neither the DOJ nor the Inspector General appear to have even requested to inspect the private data that ProPublica continues to use. Remember that they broke into Project Veritas to get Joe Biden's daughter's diary, but why aren't they breaking in here to get this information back? Why is Joe Biden's daughter's diary more important than the private tax information of Americans that was received illegally? Because that's clear it was illegal. The diary, on the other hand, was not illegally obtained. ProPublica declined to answer whether any investigative body had been in contact with them, referring me instead to the Treasury Department and the editor's note published at the time. Treasury passed the buck to the Inspector General's office, which has not responded. It's possible that Garland is treating ProPublica's exploitation of stolen information with kid gloves because of DOJ's new policy to no longer use compulsory legal process to gain access to reporters' records, including sources. I guess it depends which reporters and for what purpose, because that's not what they did to Project Veritas. If true, this is a mistake. There's a legitimate debate on whether classified information belongs to the government or to the voters. Taxpayer data, in contrast, indisputably belongs to the individual taxpayer and is shared on the basis of legal compulsion. In return, taxpayers ostensibly get roads and bridges and the promise to that data being protected. This breach should concern all Americans, not just those whose private information was leaked, apparently for ideological reasons. Such information is the very definition of personal, yet it was suddenly and illegitimately publicized without permission or recourse by those who own it. ProPublica calls it a trove, which is an apt description for something so valuable, but it isn't ProPublica's to have or to disseminate, and its editors know that the bureaucrat or contractor who share it with the liberal outlet committed a felony in doing so. What is keeping law enforcement from inspecting this information, let alone recovering it? IRS information can contain identifying marks or codes that could shed light on the thief. What right does ProPublica have to retain it? A Pennsylvania woman named Isa Sisa, whatever that was charged with receiving stolen property after she opened a bank account in which the fraudulently obtained tax refund of software engineer Michael Casper was deposited. She claimed that she wired most of the money to Nigeria while keeping part of it as compensation for a job she found on Craigslist. She ultimately received a sentence of 5.5 years of probation and 100 hours of community service. No one would argue that journalists who knows he has stolen property should be able to keep it and use it just because he's a journalist. Imagine that logic applied to a car or credit card. If past experience is any guide, anyone interested in a mystery solution is on their own. The identity of this woman was discovered only because a taxpayer whose return was stolen tracked her down using clues the IRS resisted providing in the name of protecting the privacy of the culprit. Isn't that something? Unfortunately, there's a precedent for this protection in other cases, such as the politically motivated dissemination by the IRS agent of donor lists of an organization he didn't like. This dynamic would doubtlessly lengthen and neuter any investigations to hold the culprit responsible. There are a few clues for the Herculean parrot, I don't know what that is, among us. ProPublica calls it IRS data and said it contained jargon and words the IRS uses. The information fit what the IRS describes as Americans to provide for taxes. The group says that the thief was motivated by a previous series called Gutting the IRS on agency underfunding. See, those that are in the agency, they're against underfunding. I wonder what that would be. This all points to a breach of IRS security, though IRS Commissioner and his boss, Janet Yellen, are careful to maintain that the leak from the IRS hasn't been publicly established. Former IRS Commissioner tells me that the referring the investigation to Inspector General is the absolutely appropriate move for the chairman to make, Commissioner, I should say. Everson, while being proud of how his former charge handled the challenges of the complications from the pandemic and outside the ordinary COVID payments, the supporting incremental funding increases for the agency, is dismayed at the hit the IRS is taking in public trust. It would be reassuring to the public to say that what they're doing. I imagine they are doing top-to-bottom review of their security protocols, including the work done by contractors. I just think they should comment on that and reassure congressional overseers without compromising the investigation. This data breach, together with backlogs, is in returns processing and the correspondence, and the inability to get help on the phone have damaged the Biden tax agenda. Thank God. Everson also stressed the IRS data security should be a bipartisan concern of the Congress. Unfortunately, the record shows that the Congressional Democrats have been more interested in making political hay and inciting ugly class envy with ProPublica as their partner than holding accountable those with the ability to get justice for the thousands of victims of the theft. Certainly, the relevant authorities could be more forthcoming with updates without compromising the investigation. Currently, the IRS officials won't even say if they are doing anything at the Inspector General's direction. When asked by Senate Finance Committee Republicans by letter how many full-time equivalent IRS employees have been tasked to determine whether IRS data and systems have been compromised, the commissioner replied on March 8th, IRS employees are involved in any ensuing investigations to the extent directed by the investigating agency. In other words, we do things if the Inspector General tells us to. Biden's 2023 budget plan includes a proposal to tax unrealized gains or asset growth, which would require even more financial reporting by taxpayers. An agency that can't secure our information should not be given the right to take more of it. Yet that is exactly what the Biden budget is asking for in the form of a proposal to tax unrealized gains, also known as asset growth, which would require even more financial reporting by taxpayers on theoretical increases, like the value of their house. As libertarian writer J.D. notes, the information tax collectors force us to surrender is likely to be turned against us by politicians, government agents, and the activists who see the details of our finances as tools with which to achieve their goals. The IRS, he added, isn't just a powerful federal agency. It's a weapon against the public. Many people see it that way. The New York Post cut to the heart of the issue. These tax documents are a scandal, and not the way ProPublica thinks. They are a chilling reminder that increasingly we have no right to a private life. With ProPublica's promising to continue to exploit this stolen information, with 39 privacy-invading pieces in the series this far, the most immediate justice available would be to recover the stolen goods for a return to their rightful owners. Hear, hear, I agree. Okay, here's another story in Reason. It's very much echoes what I just read. Very long, very good story though. I suggest it's in the description. You can find the links, all these links in the description. House committee to propose $1 billion funding boost for the IRS. A Congressional Appropriations Committee wants to give the IRS $1 billion more in funding to improve taxpayer service and technology and make the overall tax system fairer. The House Appropriations Committee released its draft fiscal year 2023 financial services and general government funding bill on Tuesday, which is being considered by a subcommittee. Wednesday, the legislation provides annual funding for the Treasury Department, the Judiciary, the Executive Office of the President, and other agencies, including the Small Business Administration. For 2023, the bill provides a total of $15.6 billion in discretionary appropriations for the Treasury Department, an increase of $1.3 billion above the level enacted in 2022. Of the total provided by the Department of Treasury, the bill includes $13.6 billion for the IRS, an increase of $1 billion over 2022. Included are increases to improve customer service, enforce fairness in the tax system, and modernize IRS system. So what does that mean, enforce fairness in the tax system? Of the total amount, the bill includes $3.4 billion, an increase of $630 million above 2022 for taxpayer services, answering the phone. That includes support for volunteer income tax assistance, matching grants program, low-income taxpayer clinics, and the taxpayer advocate, tax counseling for the elderly, and more employees to improve IRS customer service. So those who don't pay taxes, they're getting a lot of. They want to give them that's what they call equity. They want equity, so they're using the IRS to pass money out. There's also $6.1 billion, a boost of $682 million above the enacted 2022 for enforcement. The funds will support increased enforcement efforts and more essential personnel. Also in the package is $3.8 billion for the IRS overhead functions for operation support. To improve the IRS's antiquated technology system, the package includes $310 million, an increase of $35 million above 2022's levels, for business systems modernization to update the IRS's legacy systems, some of which date back to 1960s, and improve IRS web applications and tax funding. Remember, the Obamacare website cost $1 billion. By increasing resources for the Internal Revenue Service, we are helping the agency provide better customer service and crack down on big corporations and wealthy who are not paying their fair share. It's always. Do you remember when that phrase originated? Of course you don't. It's been there forever. And they keep raising the taxes on the rich, and they keep telling us that they're not paying their fair share. I am also particularly proud of the strong funding increases to help underserved entrepreneurs. So not about helping anybody in the IRS, giving money out to underserved entrepreneurs and small business access capital and contracting opportunities. With these resources and funding to protect the integrity of our elections, that's what the IRS should be doing. We are safeguarding our democracy, growing our economy, and investing in the programs that matter most to working families. To ensure the money is being spent carefully, there's also funding for inspector generals at the Treasury Department, including the Treasury Inspector General for a Tax Administration. The package includes $253 million for inspectors general's offices across the Treasury in fiscal 2023, an increase of $13 million. In the scheme of things, not much. Above the enacted level of 2022 to provide robust oversight of departmental policies and practices. Okay, so they're giving more money to the Inspector General's office. Is the Inspector General investigating the ProPublica leak? Well, we don't know. They won't tell us. They don't have enough money to tell us. To me, it's just amazing. We're going to give the IRS more money. I've documented on this show many times why I think that's not necessary. Now, Attorney Leahy, of course it's necessary. Look how bad it is. I know it's bad. But giving them more money, you think it's going to be better? You think giving a bureaucracy more money is really the answer to making them less bureaucratic? Really? They can't do the simple functions we're already asking them to do. And I mean simple functions like what they're supposed to do. Process tax returns. How about that? Let's start there. My own opinion. So thanks so much for joining us here today. I appreciate you taking the time. Remember, I'm always going to ask you to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. information out there. We need your help to do so. So please, help us get it out there. Remember, if you owe the IRS money, or if you have an unfiled tax returns, or the IRS is coming after you, and you're paralyzed, you don't know what to do, what's the first thing you should do? Get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. Go to freeirsbook.com, freeirsbook.com. Get your copy of Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. We will ask for a small shipping and handling fee, if you want a hard copy with all of the bonuses that go with it and the free reports. So go to freeirsbook.com and get your copy of Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. So thanks so much for joining us. Try to join us tomorrow at 2:15, where we have the Trust Radio Network. We have our interview tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon.